before I jumped into the social sector, I was working with a startup called InMobi. It's a mobile advertising company, and became one of the first few unicorns in the country in the space that it was in. I spent about 5 years there and jumped into the social sector 5 years back. But my social sector journey actually started in 2009. I used to be in Delhi working with Google, doing a regional work. And during that time, I started wondering, where will my career journey take me? And when is the time I'll make the switch? So I started volunteering and working with a Delhi-based nonprofit called End Poverty. It's a Gurgaon-based organization working in rural livelihood space. So spending 2.5 years with them in communities, in villages, gave me the sense that I was enjoying that work more than I was enjoying my day job. Because more meaningful, more purposeful. And that gave me the sense that at some point I want to come back to this full time. So 5 years back, when I was figuring out what next in life, I felt that I was ready to make the switch and be in this space for the rest of my work life. So that's how the Nudge started. We spent the first a few months in communities in Bangalore and some in Delhi, just trying to see what are the biggest challenges people in slums and communities are facing. And the number one issue that we found was that a lot of families would say that the young people are either unemployed, unemployable, or underemployed. Even the ones who had a job weren't really happy. So we took that as our first line of work and started skilling in 2015 end. I think like any organization, we knew that the purpose of the Nudge is poverty alleviation. We were clear about that. And we wanted to do it at scale and in a very sustainable fashion. But the path towards that is something you discover as you go into it. So we started with skill development. As we went deeper into the sector, understood the challenges, understood the magnitude, understood the complexity, we started introducing more products, as we say, towards solving the poverty alleviation problem from different angles. So it's had evolved from just the grassroots organization to also doing knowledge, insight, supporting the existing systems in various sectors and things like that. So we are no more a direct service delivery organization alone. We do that. That's how we learn. But we also do systems change work. We work with government. We work with other organizations. We work with other nonprofits. And collectively, we are trying to bring about the change faster than we would do alone ourselves. We work with a variety of partners. At an organization level, if you look at it, we obviously partner with a lot of corporates on the CSR side, a lot of foundations on the philanthropy side, individuals for their wisdom and philanthropic support side. We also work with many organizations and institutions to rely on either their knowledge and understanding or sharing what we are learning from the ground. So whether it is working with IIM sort of Lucknow, IIT Kanpur, MORD, NSDC within MSDE. So we work with variety of partners on knowledge partnerships, innovation partnerships, technology partnership, and things like that. When we look at the ecosystem of work downstream, we work with many partner organizations which are either for-profits or non-profits, as long as they can provide and add some value to the work we do. For example, in skill development work that we do, we work with many partner organizations who help do the admissions for the students into our skilling programs. We also work with a lot of employers downstream who actually go and not only give us inputs on what to skill people for and what their requirements are, but also place students there. We work with product companies who have built better for example, English language training curriculum or life skills training curriculum, and we learn from there and bring that into our products. So similarly, when we work in communities like in UP, we partner with other nonprofits on the ground who are doing work there, so that if we don't have a presence there, that should not be a reason for us to not be able to do good work. So we work through the nonprofit partners on the ground. Similarly, there are many other initiatives that we have done on collective action. We run a very large initiative with H&M Foundation. H&M Foundation has committed $11-12 million for the waste picker community in Bangalore. There are about 22,500 or so waste pickers in Bangalore, informal. And the idea is to work with 7, 8 organizations on the ground to have different pieces of the life aspects of waste pickers being solved, whether it is skilling, education for kids, exit opportunities, or journal inclusion in sort of society around them. We work with various partners like BBC Media Action, Hasiru Dala, LabourNet, Social Alpha, CARE, and others. So partnerships is at the core of how we exist, actually. Skilling programs for Nudge started in 2015, the first year then we launched Nudge. We used to run physical gurukuls. So we used to do the admissions of the students coming from underprivileged backgrounds ourselves with NGO partners or with government partners and various players. As long as we can identify somebody needy who wants our program and wants to take a job, we would bring them in. We give 3 things to them. One is the livelihood skill. So if they wanted to be a plumber or electrician or beautician or driver, we would give them that skill. But we also give them the learnability, digital literacy, numeracy, foundational skills. And the third component was what we call the life foundation, which is the life skills, 21st century skills and life skills, including career and employability thinking, critical reasoning, and things like that. So these were the pillars with which we used to do skilling till about pre-COVID time. These were gurukuls. We have done tens of thousands of students who have come into our gurukul, studied, and then went into jobs. With 100% placements, every student who ever graduated from the Nudge who needed a job got a job, with average salary of about 12,500 or so. When COVID hit, we realized that the physical gurukuls are not viable anymore. So what we ended up doing during COVID is we were doing a parallel product of non-residential skilling programs based on the learning of our gurukuls in 2019. With COVID, when the gurukuls were shut down, we significantly pivoted towards the online program. What we do now is we basically bring the students who are at below A1 language skill in English. We get them at least 1 level jump in English and life skills in a 3-month program. And then we put them into service sector jobs. This program is now called Future Perfect. The idea is to make students who are ready for future, and they go into service sector jobs. So in the last 7-8 months since we've started working on it, we have now scaled the product to be at a run rate of about 25,000 students a year. We are admitting more than 3,000 students every month now into that. The non-profit incubator that we run, the Nudge Incubator, it's under an umbrella impact stream of Nudge called the Center for Social Innovation. The Center for Social Innovation, the core idea is how do you nudge and how do you nurture India's top talent to solve for India's biggest problems in poverty, whether it is education, healthcare, skilling, sanitation, gender, agrarian problems, and things like that. What we do there is we basically invite non-profit entrepreneurs who are in their early years and are looking for help and support, and whether it is inputs, guidance, strategy, networks, or money. We invite those applications through an independent CSI partners, Center for Social Innovation partners. We finalize the cohort. Our selection rate is about 2 to 3%. So out of 100 applications, we receive only 2 to 3 get selected. Every year, we incubate anywhere between 15 to 25, 30 organizations. These organizations who come into the incubator go through a 6-month program. Over these 6 months, we give them 2-3 things. One, we are able to work with them as we understand their business model, their strategy, how do they want to make an impact, their theory of change, and things like that. Our partners work with them on a daily, weekly basis and give them inputs and guidance on the strategy. So we're able to sharpen the product. Second thing is we are able to bring them into the social sector by making them talk to a lot of other players in the ecosystem through our own network that we have built in the development sector as the Nudge CSI. And third is all of these incubators also receive a 15 lakh grant from us for these 6 months. So this is what we do in the incubator. We also have a product which is called the Nudge Accelerator, which is only for a subset of organizations in the development sector that are ready for scale. This is incubator is more for slightly early stage. The ones who are slightly later stage, they are looking for faster growth and now scale up. We basically support them with 50 lakhs to 2 crores over 1.5 years of support for them to take their impact to large number of people. So this is sort of the incubator acceleration programs that we run in CSI. We are still kids in a classroom trying to learn. 5 years in development sector, which is so large, so complex, so huge, is almost nothing. And I think that is one way to look at it. But also the reality is that the problems are so large. It is not that we have made any meaningful dent in the problems of the country. So both from our own learning journey as well as the impact journey, we are just getting started. It's the phase one, so to say, of the nudge that we have seen in the last 5 years. I think as an organization, almost nothing changes for us when we go forward in terms of what we are trying to do. We are a poverty alleviation organization, will remain a poverty alleviation organization. We are an organization that wants to remain rooted in doing hands-on action. So we want to remain an action-oriented development organization. We also want to continue thinking more and more scale. How do we do things at even bigger scale? How do we take that scale journey with more partners and inspire more people to think scale? And make sure that we do all of this in a very sustainable fashion. So poverty alleviation, sustainability, scalability, action orientation will remain for Nudge. I think what will change is that we are increasingly realizing that for large scale change, you need to work with the governments or markets, right? While you're working with the communities, you still need to partner with governments and markets for large scale. And obviously, people who are at the upper end of the bottom of the pyramid, market solutions can go and touch. Agri is an example, dairy is an example, skilling is an example. But people who are at the bottom of the pyramid or middle of the bottom of the pyramid need more social protection, resilience, entitlements, and government support, right? So where we play in the poverty pyramid based on where people are, it will determine whether we work closely with markets or work more closely with government interventions. But we'll be working across the chain. We also realize that the real big enablers for large scale impact are going to be talent and capital. But talent and capital will have to leverage technology and policy. So these to me are the core: talent, capital, policy, and technology. And as Nudge will be investing in talent for the social sector, capital for the social sector, technology for the social sector, and are the policies in line with what can enable the poor to come out of it faster. So these are the areas, and obviously our focus is livelihoods. So we'll continue to do skilling for jobs in urban areas and continue working on livelihoods for people in rural areas for their work there. When the lockdown started around end of March, just like other crowdfunding platforms, we also created a crowdfunding campaign to support the COVID impacted people in urban areas who did not have ways to go and make money. We saw that very quickly, large number of people came forward, and within 3 days, we were able to raise the first 1 crore, which is actually unprecedented in our own history, right? Most crowdfunding campaigns don't end up reaching 1 crore, and especially in that short period of time. And we realized that, the need around was very, very large. This large number of people who were impacted by COVID in terms of their livelihoods getting lost. When we saw that happen, and we realized that this is going to continue, you were able to extrapolate by towards the end of March that this is going to continue for a while. It is not going away in 10 days, 15 days, 1 month, 2 months. Then we realized, and we went internally and started thinking, saying that, look, it has to be more organized. We can't be just reacting very quickly without deep thought. So that is a time when we said we should structure a proper fund around it. We called it the India COVID Response Fund, ICRF. We invited 16 people from different backgrounds, whether it is Kiran Majumdar Shaw, Dr. Devi Shetty from the healthcare community, or Mr. Sanjeev Mehta, or Amitabh Chaudhary from Unilever and Axis Bank, to many other individuals and partners. Omidyar, many other organizations came forward, and we had an advisory group that could guide us on where we should focus. We also set up a 3-people steering committee, including one of our board members, Mr. Govind Iyer, Ingrid Srinath from Center for Social Impact and Philanthropy at Ashoka University, and Mr. Shailesh Haribhakti from Haribhakti Chartered Accountancy practice that they do. So we had a 3-people steering committee that decided where the money should be given, advisory board to guide us on the strategy, and as Give India team, we were bringing the proposals to the table as we were seeing work on the ground. Now, what happened during that time is, as we put this structure together, Give India has not been into HNI giving or corporate giving in the past. Now, because of COVID, we didn't want to say no to support that was coming in. And because we have a large number of corporates that we work with, 120 plus corporates that we work with, we started reaching out to everyone asking for support for COVID work. And we were very surprised. The more we asked, the more we got, right? And that was also the time that everybody in the country wanted to contribute to societal needs. All we were seeing, thinking, talking, deliberating was how do we support COVID impacted people across the country. So we reached out to people in India, outside, and I'm glad that we were able to raise about 220 crores. We have spent more than 200 crores. 250 NGOs have been benefited. 56 lakh people have been directly touched with these interventions across 113 cities across the country. 70 plus corporate partners contributed, 15 plus foundations contributed, 3.5 lakh individuals donated into this campaign. So I think it was probably one of the largest collective giving efforts we saw in the country, outside of obviously government initiated efforts around these things. So very glad that we were able to muster support and contribute to people in India in their most difficult times. Donors want to be giving and supporting the trustworthy organizations. So trust is a very important point here. But trust is not just transparency. Trust is also capability. When somebody gives you money, they are not saying that as long as you spend the money on what you said you will use it for, it is okay. If spending the money in a child's education does not improve learning, then it's still money wastage. Even if you are fully transparent that the money was spent on books and teachers and classrooms and toilets, and it has no meaning. So donors need to understand both your transparency, so they understand that you are meeting the donor's promise, but also capability. And you have to, as an organization, invest in both. If you cannot demonstrate your transparency, which is basically saying that you are high integrity and you are high capability, because impact is linked to your capability, right? Integrity is linked to that money is actually doing what it is being asked for. And I feel that India is moving from just transparency to capability demonstration for money to come in. And I think that requires storytelling, digital skills, proposal writing skills, being out there and genuinely considering fundraising as an important skill. I think it is all needed. The respect for fundraising as a function, reaching out to donors is something that I would encourage everyone to invest in and not be away from if they want to raise money for the good work that people do. At the same time, I also feel like organizations should basically leverage Give India and other crowdfunding platforms to raise money from their supporters. Sometimes you don't need too much money. All you need is some people who understand your work find easier ways to support your work, right? Your supporters are all over the world. They don't know how to send money. So use crowdfunding platforms to reach out to the people who already know you, trust you, to at least be able to collect money faster and easier. That could be a good starting point as well. The name Nudge Foundation, the nudge in the name came from the big book from Thaler, obviously. And I quite like the fact that, what we were really trying to do is to figure out a way to nudge people for them to pull themselves out of poverty, right? We are not a force. We are not shouting out of our lungs on on the street saying, these are our rights. We are basically saying, can we be a very small little nudge to people to wake them up and say, hey, can we work with you to get you, help you get out of poverty? So that's sort of the genesis behind it. In fact, our logo, which is a forward slash, represents a positive nudge, a role that we want to play in the lives of the people we serve. So both our logo as well as the name reflects the role that we want to play with working with communities. I think Give India obviously has a very long history. It's a 20-year-old organization started by Venkat. And the name from the very beginning has been Give Foundation. And the idea was, how do you create a space where the donors can come and give with trust to the people who are in genuine need? Given the inequity in the country, the idea was to make giving more effective and more efficient so that more lives can be served with the money that people want to help with. Has it nudged me in some way? I think that happens every day. I get nudged and pushed uh, by all the nudsters all the time on, can we do this? Can we do that? And I think a lot of what we have to do is make sure that we are calibrating and focusing our energy on the strategy of the organization and how we want to do it. I work with a lot of high empathy people, which is in social sector a norm, right? It's self-selection that high empathy people who care for others come in the sector. And I think just being able to work with them is a very, very nice energy nudge to your own life to keep doing what you're doing. So